The Predators are in another hot run, which means we ask the question, are they actually good now? Plus, Dante Fabbro all of a sudden in trade talk online. We'll see what that's about. And it's Monday, which means it's time for our plus minus, where we highlight the highs and lows of the week, all coming up today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Predators your first listen of the day. Every single day, we are your free Nashville Predators podcast that's available to you wherever you get your podcasts, and we're streaming on YouTube as well. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer and editor at ontheforecheck.com, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer and editor at InsideThePreds.com.
We are in the middle of another long break between games.
Yeah.
A lot of vacation mode here lately.
Yeah, I think the guys are probably, I don't know. I think they're probably liking it. This one was scheduled, so this one feels like they could have some more joy around it. The one with the postponed games, a little bit less joyful.
You can sneak in a Barbados trip or something like that here in the next week or so, I think.
I mean, I would give it a shot.
Yeah. Look, maybe that's something that we can get out of the Locked On budget to see, hey, is it possible to take a Barbados trip?
Yes.
During a 6-day break between games.
Hashtag journalism.
That is called investigative journalism right here. Just put us right up there with Rick Westhead.
Come on.
Let's do it. Well, the last time we saw the Preds was on Friday. They beat the New York Islanders 4-1. The Preds are now 7-1-1 in their last 9 games, which is when their 2-week road trip ended back in the middle of November. A few weird games in there.
True.
For really multiple reasons. But Ann, I mean, it's, say what you will, maybe about the way the Preds have played in some of these games. Not all. That's a big distinction.
Yes.
But are they turning a corner? I think that's fair to ask after this 7-1-1 stretch.
I think it's a fair question. My answer is yes. ... ellipsis question mark. But here's the thing that's really reassuring about this 7-1-1 stretch is we're seeing more consistent play from the Nashville Predators. So I think we're getting a better idea. I think everybody has settled in a little. You've seen UC Saros find his groove. You've seen Roman Josi, who had a little bit of a slower start to the season, settling in and finding his game. You're seeing Matt Duchene and Philip Forsberg kind of slowly finding their game. So I think this is probably a better picture of who the Predators are. Now, like you said, some of these games, make you go, like, who are the Predators? You look at the statistics, you look at the outcomes of the games. There are some games where, the New York Islanders, they were outshot, God bless Kevin Lankinen, by a significant number. He handled 49 shots.
Give Kevin Lankinen a fruit basket. Somebody's got to give him a fruit basket.
Let him go to Barbados in your suitcase. Kevin Lankinen earned that. Yeah. So there's some things that we're seeing that are very reassuring. This team is finding their groove. They're settling in. They're finding ways to win games that maybe statistically they shouldn't have. They're finding a way to steal games. And here's what's real in the National Hockey League. You're going to have to steal some games because ain't nobody going to give them to you. So I think the Predators are maybe pretty good. Maybe.
I feel like any answer we give to this question is going to have like 5 question marks at the end of it and have that upward inflection. Like you're kind of thinking about something. Like you could maybe go either way, but you don't want to commit.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that What do you
I mean,
think we're
look,
learning in is with a 7-1-1 record? What are we learning about this team?
well, I mean, and here's the thing, and because a lot of people are pointing to that Islanders game and being
Mhm.
like, wow, the Preds are going to win another game they had no business of winning. Do they even have a good win this year? LOL. And it's important to note that, yeah, there's a couple of those wins that are like that. But at the
Mhm.
same time, like, look at the game against the Devils, in which analytically the Predators were the better team in that one.
Yes.
And look, a lot of people kind of on the other foot are pointing to like Arizona and Anaheim and being like, oh, well, that's, we had to go to overtime against two bad teams, but then look at, the analytics, and the Preds dominated those games. They dominated their 3-0 loss to Detroit. And then you
Yes.
go back in the schedule, and it's like, look, they played very well against the Minnesota Wild. They played fairly well against the Islanders the first time around.
Mhm.
And they played fairly well against the Tampa Bay Lightning, even
Yes.
in that overtime loss. The Preds had a chance to win that game. So, yeah, there's a couple of those who Preds kind of stole that one games in this run. But there's also a lot of games in which the Preds did what you expect good hockey teams to, and that's kind of dominate the play. Sometimes they need to work on finishing the play, but they're kind of dominating the run of play. And so that's why, to me, this, the narrative of, oh, the Preds are, punching above their weight, they're winning games they're not supposed to, they're going to come crashing down to earth. I don't think it's valid,
No.
because Preds are going out there and dominating games they should dominate, a lot of times running into either just kind of weird puck luck or very, very good goaltending. The Preds have had some absolute stonewalled goalies on
Mhm.
the other end of the ice in this stretch. So, yeah, I mean, look, the Predators are doing things that they should. There's obviously things you need to clean up, but you can't say this is all luck either.
No. They're 7-1-1. And I've seen kind of those comments about like the Predators haven't earned any of their wins so far. And I think, first of all, if that is maybe how you view hockey and you're going to look at analytics, just end the team with the last preseason game. If
Yeah.
all you're going to do is look at the analytics, just end it with the first preseason game and
Hit,
call it. Like, we don't
hit
actually need to
sim.
play any games.
Yeah, hit sim on the entire NHL season.
Yes. Like,
And
don't
look,
waste my time.
yeah,
But this is you look at the Devils game and you look at the statistics, and the Nashville Predators played really well, but so did the New Jersey Devils. It's not like the New Jersey Devils were fumbling around and had absolutely just the worst performance, and that's how the Nashville Predators stole that win. Nashville worked their tushes off for that win. Now, anybody who's going to beat the Devils is pretty much going to have to work their tushes off, because the Devils, I think, especially this year, are a team who just don't seem to make a lot of mistakes. Like, they are such a great team, and they don't make mistakes. They don't provide a lot of opportunities. So I'm not sure where that narrative comes from, and I find it exhausting.
yeah. And only this Devils' second loss since October
Mhm.
24 of any kind. So there's
Yeah.
something for Nashville to hang its hat on.
Yep.
Look, and I've said this before, I think analytics, they do tell a story, like where the
Yes.
Preds need to improve. Like, is this going to be sustainable? Are they going to have to try some things to get some things going? I think it tells that story.
Mhm.
But in terms of who gets to the postseason, what the wins and losses are, the record isn't determined by, how many games in which you had the better Corsi or the better high danger chances.
Right.
They're won on wins and losses. And there
Right.
is something to be said. And I said this last week, there is something to be said for a team that can go out there, sustain a lot of pressure,
Mhm.
sustain a lot of offensive play from the other team, and still go out there and find a way to win. And you saw
Yes.
the Reds do that against the Islanders.
Yes, absolutely. The Islanders really, I was going back through and looking at some of like the shot pressure charts and things like that, looking at the analytics. And the Islanders, in so many ways, really dominated that game. I mean, shots on goal, 49-23. So really, there was a lot going on. But in the NHL, hot goalies win you games. And we know this because it's happened against the Nashville Predators recently. So to say that the Predators aren't a good team isn't necessarily accurate. Now, to say that they're going to win the Stanley Cup, I'm also not going there. So put that little raised inflection thing at the end of that. But
they might have vibes. They can always vibe their way into a Stanley Cup thing again.
Look, they're vibing, and there's no graph for vibing. This team is vibing right now. And I'm so sorry if their charts don't make you feel okay. But at the end of the season, like you said, it's about who wins games. And the Nashville Predators on Friday, against an absolute barrage of offense, found a way to win a game. Now, the final score 4-1, not reflective of the game. It was a 2-1 nail biter, look through your fingers at the screen as time wound down like dog ears kind of game. But at the end of the day, they won the game.
Probably also could have been 5-2 for the Islanders. By the way, this Preds hot run should also mention Kevin Lankinen and UC Saros, a huge part of that.
Yes.
Because the Preds aren't this good without either of those two. Another Preds player to talk about, one that's kind of popped up in trade rumors lately. I don't know why, but he has. Dante Fabbro. We'll talk about that in just a second. Plus, we got our plus minus from the past week coming up. But first, want to mention today's show is brought to you by Athletic Greens and their product, which I use pretty much every single day, AG1. I talked about this before. I started taking AG1 because Athletic Greens gave me a free thing. I was skeptical, but I tried it anyway, and it tasted actually pretty good. Nice little vanilla tint. And I started using it over and over in time, and I kind of noticed improvements. I was not having the rumbly tummy during the day. I was focused, had lots of energy throughout the day. I could do my little afternoon workouts without that big crash. And yeah, I do think AG1 has played a big part of that because it's become part of my morning routine. So for those of you asking, what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source, superfoods, probiotics, and everybody's favorite adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, aging, pretty much, anything that you can imagine. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free, whatever. It fits into your eating lifestyle, and it contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, but it still tastes good. It also supports sleep quality and recovery, supports mental focus, clarity as well. Alertness is one of the best things you can have. And Athletic Greens uses the best products out there with a nice little blend based on the latest science. And they're constantly tweaking the product with third-party testing to get the best blend out there. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop of AG1 in a cup of water every day. That's all you need. No need for a million different pills and supplements that you have to buy separately and spend a lot of money on. Just one scoop per day. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, Ann, if you check Twitter,
oh dear,
there is a lot of buzz about people booking fantasy trades for Dante Fabbro. And we were confused about this because you brought this to my attention. I'm not really on Twitter a whole lot, just during games and stuff. But, I saw like a Dante Fabbro tweet and I was like, okay, this is just some dude making fantasy booking. And then you mentioned you saw a bunch. So we went out and checked, and this gets traced back to Nick Kyprios, who's a guy on Sportsnet. And he wrote an op-ed for the Toronto Star saying that David Poile wants to move a defenseman and is willing to part with Fabbro for the right price. That was his words.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand that one if you're from the Nashville Predators perspective, David Poile perspective, because it seems like with Mark Borowiecki out, you're kind of playing with first off, there's not even a backup defenseman on the Preds roster. They are going gung-ho with defensemen like this entire time. So I don't know why you would want to lose another one, but that's just me. Number two, it's weird that, the Preds finally have some chemistry and David Poile would want to tweak this. So here's my question, Anne. A, how much validity do you think this has? And B, why?
Yeah. I question how much validity does this have? I don't really know, because haven't heard it coming from, the origin of it hasn't been around here in Nashville. But having heard that David Poile is interested in moving a defenseman and maybe Dante Fabbro, you think, surely you didn't just make that up. So maybe there have been discussions about it. I am very surprised by this. I have to tell you, when we were talking about it, I'm very surprised by this for a number of reasons. Number one, the reason you brought up, who's going to play defense?
Yeah. Who else is there to come?
Who else is there? I mean, Mark Borowiecki out with injury. We saw the Predators through the ending of the Islanders game roll with 5 defensemen because Ryan McDonagh took a puck to the face and was out for part of that game. And also send him a fruit basket or take him to Barbados for that.
Or both.
I think he would accept both happily. But what would they do on defense? You would have to get a defenseman. If you're going to do something, you're going to have to get a defenseman.
Yeah.
Just, stick with what you know. And I agree with you. They finally settled in with these new defensive pairings where you've got Josi and McDonagh together, which I think is absolute magic. I think you're seeing improvement in Roman Josi's game. I think Ryan McDonagh feels more comfortable with that. You've got Carrier and Ekholm and Fabbro and Lauzon, which maybe isn't the strongest defensive pairing in the NHL, but it's getting it done for a third defensive pairing. I just can't figure out what the upside for Nashville would be to trading Dante Fabbro, because who is there coming up through in Milwaukee? Now we've seen Jordan Gross. Is it Jordan Gross that we saw?
Gross, yeah.
Yes, come up. And I thought that he played pretty well, but is he ready for the minutes, for the game stretch to play at the NHL level like the expectation is for Dante Fabbro? Dante Fabbro's a young guy, but he's got seasons under his belt. This does not make a lot of sense to me, and I find it just slightly alarming.
Yeah, and you look at who else is on that Milwaukee roster. Mark Del Gaizo's right now probably the big guy that would come up, but he's having a little bit of a quiet year in Milwaukee, although certainly get that chance. You also talk about Spencer Stastny and Adam Wilsby, two prized defensive prospects, but, I think they need another year of seasoning as well. I don't think they're quite ready to make that jump to the NHL. So, yeah, who do you bring up that would give you the same sort of level as Dante Fabbro? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, unless you're bringing somebody back. But you kind of look at like what's being talked about in terms of Fabbro right now. There's the article was out there because of Toronto, and Toronto just lost Morgan Rielly for probably the bulk of this season. And so, they're not going to want to give up an NHL ready defenseman when their entire purpose of making the trade is because they don't have enough NHL ready defensemen. Somebody like Ottawa, Also, that's kind of been another name thrown out there looking for a defenseman. They're not going to want to give up like anybody who the Preds would want to step in and fill in right away. And, I guess from the Preds perspective, the draw would be to get another forward. Yeah, like I can't think of any other reason you would make that Dante Fabbro trade.
Yeah. What can you get? And here's the thing, when Mark Borowiecki comes back, I think the Predators are in a really great position defensively. Like right now, things are going okay. They're holding steady, but you get Borowiecki back and the Predators are in a good position defensively. Why would you jack with that? And if you want to get a forward, and I don't even like saying this out loud, but if the Predators are looking for a forward, just trade Ellie Tolvanen. Not that I want to put that out there, but he's not getting any ice time. So why would you give up a defenseman when you have this very valuable, perfectly good, and yet still collecting dust forward? Yeah. I really can't see a scenario in which a Dante Fabbro trade makes any sense for the Nashville Predators. Here is what I will say. David Poyle's going to David Poyle. Like David Poyle is a name and it is a verb.
Yeah.
So, you kind of just have to sit back and see what unfolds. But when I read that, I thought I just can't in my mind put together a scenario where losing Dante Fabbro somehow makes the Nashville Predators better.
No, I again, I think this is one of those things I take with a big grain of salt because as we mentioned, it doesn't make sense. Not saying that it's wrong, that it hasn't been discussed at some point,
right?
Like maybe earlier in this off season, like maybe that's where Kyprios is getting this from. Like maybe in the off season, David Poyle was going out there and trying to include Dante Fabbro in some trade packages, JT Miller before he re-signed his deal, or, a piece in a Matthew Tkachuk trade because, it was rumored Calgary was, kind of maybe looking for a defenseman to shore up that line as well. So maybe like from that standpoint, and we talked about this in the offseason, like, Dante Fabbro would be somebody that you would fit in a trade piece, but at this very moment, like right now, that's where it kind of makes less sense to me.
Yeah. In the scenario in which the Predators find themselves today, I cannot see a scenario in which Dante Fabbro is traded. But again, David Poyle's going to David Poyle.
So join us tomorrow when we break down the Dante Fabbro trade, and we'll see what the Predators, their big return from the Toronto Maple Leafs, that's coming up tomorrow.
Oh gosh, let's hope not. Let's hope not. But what is coming up? What is coming up, and what matters the most, because it's Monday, is plus minus. We have to celebrate the good things that happened this week. We're going to have to point out some minus things that happened this week, and we're going to do that in just 1 minute. But first, we want to thank you for making Locked On your first listen of the day. And we want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at BetOnline.net. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting information, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football, basketball, to soccer and esports. Everything you could be interested in, they cover it at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, and we know you do, you can find those at BetOnline as well. BetOnline is always the fastest and the easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to their website today, or you can use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
All right, Ann, it's Monday.
It is so Monday.
Plus minus is where we go through the past week of Preds hockey, give pluses to the things that worked well, minuses to the things we didn't like. So, Ann, let's be optimist and start out with a plus.
All right. I am going to just start out with a topic and a plus that, brings me delight on a cellular level to shout out, and that is Matthew Duchene. So
Yes.
Matt Duchene has had 6 points in the 3 games this week, 2 assists in Anaheim, an assist against the Devils. And in the Islanders, he had a goal and 2 assists. But here's the thing I most want to shout out about his play this week. And this was in the New Jersey Devils game in overtime. Matt Duchene was so tenacious after that puck in the overtime, got the turnover in the offensive zone, and such a smart play to be aware of where Ryan Johansson was, where he would be, and the timing to make that overtime goal work. Matt Duchene, really just an incredible week for my good friend Matt Duchene. And it's interesting because Duchene this week has played with a couple different players. He has been with Sissons and Jeannot, and then against the Islanders, he was with Granlund and Parsonen. So he's kind of just sort of moving in and out of different spots in the lineup, but I love seeing him successful wherever they put him. It is really good to see him kind of get back to that playmaking that I think is such a valuable part of his game. So let's hear it from Matthew Duchene.
Deserves a play to your Duchess cookies.
He does.
He would have been your Duchess cookie guy last week. We gotta bring that segment back, by the way.
We should. I'm ready to do some baking. We could bring it back.
Yeah. And Matt Duchene, the empty netter he scored against the Islanders, almost looked like that exact kind of setup as that overtime goal against the Devils as well. That just sort of not give up on the puck.
Yep, hard play.
And I am going to give we have given this aspect of the Predators game so much crap this season.
I know.
So I feel like we should go ahead and give a plus to the Preds power play. Not 1, not 3, but 2 power play goals against the New York Islanders on Friday.
Yeah.
2 for 3 on the power play, and they look pretty good too. Like that, just like the good puck rotation and, getting guys in and out of dangerous areas, kind of creating all these zigzags and stuff like that. And, the Islanders had trouble kind of keeping track of where the passing lanes are, and that opened it up for 2 goals, one from Bill Forsberg, one from a wicked Roman.
Oh my gosh.
Shea Weber reincarnate right there. With the perfect Patrick Hornquist-esque screen right in the front of the goaltender there. Look, it's not a perfect power play. I mean, they're still one of the worst in the NHL, but hey, 2 goals against the New York Islanders, who are a pretty good special teams play. You got to give the power play some kudos.
Yes.
Please do that more often.
Yes, let us replicate what we saw from the power play this week. I agree with that. I had that in my plus column under the drunk power play was how I filed that in my plus column.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes the power play is drunk and it is a messy, angry drunk and nobody wants to be around it. But this week, it was the fun drunk.
That got
too
dark.
much. Too much.
No, too much.
The power play.
Yeah,
who knew?
It's like finally finding a cute coworker at the office Christmas party to take home. Look, you may have 0 action for 11 months of the year, but you really hit the home run at the Christmas party.
I thought that only happened on Love Actually, which you still probably haven't watched.
I did see The Holiday the other day.
Okay, that's a start. We're getting there. We'd still have time. But not seeing that is a minus. Another minus. Okay, I'm going outside of the sphere of the Nashville Predators. There are a couple minuses for the Nashville Predators, but this one I just have big feelings about. So we're going to go right there. And my minus for this week in the NHL goes to Jordan. I'm a baby Binnington. What is going on with this young man? I understand. Like, I have a heart for feeling frustrated and being so competitive and being frustrated when things don't go your way. But the way that Jordan Binnington seems to handle his frustrations is so far less than professional. So in the game against the Penguins, he allowed 3 goals in the first period. So as Zucker was going around behind the back of the net, he just whacked him with his blocker. And like, are we 12? Are we 12? What is this about? And can we get it under control? They talk, earlier in the week, this one is actually a little bit funny, and you would think this one would have maybe been a life lesson. He tried to take out Jordan Stahl behind the net and ended up just absolutely getting leveled. God bless. But it's that kind of thing where I'm like, is somebody stepping in and saying, hey, let's sit down and talk about some things? Or are we doing what his coach said, which is, just stop the puck? Yes, that is his job. But can we talk about the bigger picture here?
Well, and the best part of that was he did that. He then got pulled because he sucked in that game. And as he's skating off, of course, Jason Zucker and the Penguins are chirping him from the bench. He skates over to the Penguins bench and tries to start something. And that's when Craig Berube, the Blues coach, was like, hey, I don't like it. And somebody kind of brought up an interesting point in the SB Nation group chat the other day. You don't say that if you're Craig Berube, you don't say that to the press unless you've already said it to Jordan Binnington. Fair. So it's like, I wonder, is Craig Berube an actual good coach who's going to say something to Jordan Binnington about that? But B, is this Jordan Binnington not getting the picture from his head coach? And if that's the case, if this guy is just a hothead who, doesn't have a leash on him, then that's
red flag.
That's a whole different thing. And the other thing is he's like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, think back to Patrick Waugh and Ron Hextall and Billy Smith and some of these, goalies who would just go out there and, take shots at people and kind of get in people's faces. They could back that up because they were good.
Yes.
Yeah. They could. Patrick Waugh could go out there and take a whack at somebody, or Ron Hextall could go into the corner and just punch a guy in the face because they were good goaltenders back in their day. Jordan Binnington, this isn't this isn't just, hey, you're trying to jump into a fray or some guy's been talking smack. So you start something. This is a guy that's getting beat, getting frustrated, and then just losing his cool on somebody. And let me tell you what, Jordan Binnington, and this is kind of a warning to the St. Louis Blues, Jordan Binnington is going to do that to the wrong team, who is going to have a very large person on the ice who is going to just level him. That is going to be like the Andrew Peters, Ray Emery fight from back in 2007, where it's just like, okay, you're talking smack. You're going to go in there. Okay, here's our enforcer. Our enforcer is going to drop the gloves with you.
Yeah.
That's going to be what happens in St. Louis. That is going to spark a massive brawl. So
very disturbing. And in his defense, the Penguins are annoying. I get that. But if you are frustrated about your game, what is your mental work where that's how you behave? So big red flag for me.
Yeah. Just do what Thomas Vokoun did and just kick him. Just kick him as they go by. Stick your leg out. That's the old school Predators way, baby.
That's right. That's how we do
and
that.
I know we're optimists. I know we like to end on a plus, but I have to end on a minus. Maybe the most controversial minus out there.
Okay.
Roman Yossi's haircut.
Oh my gosh, what happened?
Can we talk about it? Look, my God, I am a straight male. But Roman Yossi's haircut at the end of that Islanders game, with just the locks coming down on his face and the ragged hair. Donna Summer's It's Raining Men was just blasting in my head as Roman Josi took that helmet off. And I felt my heart drop as he announced he was getting the haircut the next day. And then to actually see it. It's very disappointing that Mrs. Josi didn't get in his ear and put a stop to this. It's disappointing that nobody in Roman Yossi's circle is like, dude, you have your Swiss Ice Warrior look going on right now.
Yes.
It is a Luke. It is a Luke with 5 W's in there. Nobody thought to stop this. That to me is disappointing.
I'm hoping that it's a bad, like the photo, I'm hoping it's just a bad angle or maybe a one-off bad styling because the photo was disappointing. And here's the thing, when Yossi did the interview and he was like, "Oh, I'm getting my haircut." I thought, why would you do that? Like he's in peak headband. Like he had peak headband curls and length. And I was like, no, you're right where you want to be, my friend.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was the perfect combination of like length and curl.
Yes, it was
like
magic.
We were entering potential man bun territory.
Yes, we were right on the cusp of athletic man bun.
Yeah, would have been up there with Walker Zimmerman for all hair MVP of Nashville sports. But sadly, that is no longer the case.
Yeah. It grows back. We take comfort in knowing that it grows back. But yeah, the photo, I just hope it was a bad angle or bad lighting for the new haircut.
Somebody's got to get in his ear next time.
Yeah.
Look, $9 million a year. You can find yourself a style circle.
We can do it.
We can do it. Yeah.
It could be our side hustle. We'll style Roman Yossi.
Yeah. Big show coming up tomorrow as the Preds are on the break, but the baby Preds are going strong. So we got our prospect expert, Eric Dene, coming on. We're going to talk the Admirals. We're going to talk about some of the hot prospects that the Preds have going on right now. Guys like Logan Hero. That's a big guy coming up. There's a lot of plenty to talk about in that regard. So that's coming up on tomorrow's show. And give yourself a plug. Where can people find your work?
You can find my work at InsideThePreds.com, and you can find me on Twitter at ANK_Mama on Ice.
You can find me at ontheforecheck.com or wingit@motown.com, or follow me on Twitter at _NSMorgan. And if you are on Twitter, also be sure to follow the podcast at LO_Predators. However you're listening to this right now, whether you're watching us on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcasting platform, be sure to hit that subscribe button, give us a rating, and leave a comment. Let us know what you think of anything from Roman Yossi's haircut to the Dante Fabbro trade rumors. We'd love to get your take on it. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'll be back tomorrow with an all-new episode. We'll see you then.